Thank you for watching, liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing right now.
Sorry.
Are we going?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Chris has been rocking the Blazers, so I just really wanted to throw my my code in, so to speak. So, welcome to Ignite. We started this about a year ago, doing these small geek events in Seattle. And what they are is they're a series of geek talks where we pull in people who are local or people who happen to be local. So we were lucky this week we had some Gnomedexers in town. It all started when Bree Pettis and I were in Brussels together, and we were talking about what could we do about Seattle? What could we do to give Seattle more gravity? So we both work for O'Reilly, and so we decided to do a combination of radar and make, kind of our two things there. And so he normally does about make contest, popsicle stick, bridge building, egg slams, and then I run the tech talks. He's at Hackers on a Plane right now, so he couldn't make it for this. But the Ask Later talks, or the Ignite talks, are here for you now. They're 20 slides, 15 seconds a slide for a total of 5 minutes. And we have 7 Ignite speakers here from the other night, and they were chosen by the crowd using the Moses voting system to send them to Gnomedex. So it was really nice of Chris and Ponzi to give them the opportunity to speak here, so thank you very much. We've been doing this for a while, and the caliber this time was amazing. So you're gonna hear about art, iPhone mind control, how to read VCs, what type of metrics you're looking for, the power of lunch to change the world, a little bit about lolcats, and then what to do to make your life fun while being a terrorist in some ways, as it turns out, we learned this morning. Ignite's spreading. We're doing them in Boston. It'll be coming to New York soon. I'm doing some in Beijing and Berlin later this fall. We're also going to be putting up a site so that people can, if they want, use community tools and take it away and run it on their own. So, this are the websites, tag stuff, Ignite Seattle if you want. Now, next up is a good friend of mine, Scott O'More, who happened to go to college with Chris Pirillo, back when Chris was still a theater major. And yeah, you didn't know Chris did theater, did you? Huh. So Scotto and I worked together on a small video series called Cherub, the Vampire with Bunny Slippers. And
Oh no.
yes. Oh yes.
Oh no, you don't have a clip.
Oh, you didn't? Did you not include the clip? Oh, damn. Well, anyway, here's Scotto to talk about how to make art, not content.
Hi. Thank you. I'm here to talk to you about internet art. Now, I'm not talking about traditional art that you put on the net. I'm talking about art that relies on the net as its medium. Now, I remember the first time that someone explained to me how hypertext was going to change the face of storytelling. It didn't. But artists like Mark America created very interesting hypertext works incorporating nonlinear storytelling, small animations, and audio snippets. This all seemed pretty revolutionary not too long ago. Now, the first internet art that I remember was an infamous site called Jody.org, an endless series of HTML pages as abstract expressions. If you view the source on this page, you'll see in the code an ASCII representation of a bomb. This was the mid-90s, of course, before that kind of thing will get you put on a list. Sites like Superbad continued this style of exploration with endless beautiful twists and turns. It's a puzzle. Why is that boy's head so large? I don't know. Artists like this were rebelling against the clean and easy to parse web design standards that were trying to emerge at the time. Nowadays, we've got all kinds of internet art. Second Front is a performance art group situated in Second Life. They recently raided the Reuters building there and began overwhelming the lobby with their own breaking news headlines. I, of course, can't handle Second Life because of a long-standing fear of polygons, but I don't want to. Storytelling has certainly advanced since hypertext. The wiki novel truly democratizes art. What I love about the wiki novel is how it takes a form that has traditionally been very solitary and very difficult, and by adding more people to the process, it makes it more difficult. Dance has a unique place on the net. If you check out this expandable movement library of HTML tags, which anyone can submit video clips to, and which they're using to choreograph the global top 500 websites, like Expedia. Just makes sense. This next piece utilizes multiple concurrent video windows and interstitial graphics to create a rich web cinema palette. Now, it's no Die Hard, which, the part where he goes, yippee-ki-yay! That's a great film. But web cinema gives us alternative storytelling techniques that are still basically in their infancy. And that's how our evil overlords would like it to stay. Now, I'm not against the commodification of art. There's nothing wrong with it. I love buying episodes of TV just as much as anybody. But big media views art as a product called content and us as consumers or locusts. Now artists are trying to use MySpace and YouTube to reach for fame and fortune in traditional media, but it requires them to parrot traditional media forms. Innovation suffers as a result. Contrast that with graffiti artists who have no expectation of landing a TV deal or a museum show. Now, these artists create in an environment of literal risk, and their primary incentive is the knowledge that they've created a kick-ass piece of art. Now, is there any similar art form like that on the net? Yes. Oh, hi! Now, the big buzzword in internet art these days is disintermediation. The internet theoretically disintermediates the big media companies. But to the extent that artists rely on MySpace and YouTube, they've merely thrown in with different big media companies and continue down the path of viewing their work as content to be consumed. Now, people ask, how will internet artists get paid? There are ways. Threadless is a great example of a business that built itself essentially around an online artists collective. But thinking in terms of money immediately puts you at a remove from the pure artistic response. And I can't help but think that suckers us into playing big media's game. We're not innovating. Now, internet art obviously hasn't been around very long, and much that we know of today is the province of art galleries, commissions by the Tate, the Whitney, the Guggenheim, because that's how artists can get paid for this stuff. But this stuff isn't connecting with the mainstream. It lacks the visceral spark that good pop media can provide. Take the Dumpster, for instance. This is a small web app that enables you to navigate through hundreds of blog snippets and text messages about people breaking up. It's cute. But if this is the state of software art on the net, if this is the kind of thing galleries are commissioning, well, that's just stupid, and I don't like it. Now, Second Life is the closest thing we've got to what I'm talking about, but its limitation is that it's oriented around modeling a 3D world. Admittedly, a world where you can fly and have sex with a bunny rabbit, but it has that limitation. You don't always want to put on an avatar to experience art. What would the digital equivalent of Burning Man be? A grassroots arts festival with few rules and devoid of commerce as a motivator. What could inspire coders and designers and artists of all disciplines to flock together to push the boundaries of internet art? I wish I had an answer to that question, but I don't. All I know is that right now, that type of thing seems to be missing. Put another way, what will be the true Sgt. Peppers of internet art? The piece that comes along and causes everybody to sit up and take notice. The Beatles revolutionized pop music in that moment. The time is ripe for someone to come along and do that same thing on the internet. And that someone, by the way, is not going to be me. I'm a very busy person, and I have lots of important television to watch. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Scotto. Next up, you're going to hear from Gnomedexer Dave McClure. He's going to talk about how pirates can teach you about startup metrics.
All right, I want everybody to wake up with me. Everybody do your favorite Captain Jack Sparrow impression. Turn to the person next to you and go, "Arr!" All right, that's pretty good. All right, so why did I choose the word R? R stands for a 5-step model for customer lifecycle. It's based on acquisition, activation, retention, referral, and revenue. And I posit to you that those are the 5 things that you as a product or marketing person should be thinking about, or a founder, when you're trying to figure out what you want to build for a website, or pretty much anything. So, I'll walk through this. It's a little bit complicated, but acquisition, stuff comes through the top. Activation, you have home pages and landing pages and product features that engage the user. Retention, email alerts and blogs bring them back. Referral, emails and widgets and campaigns and contests, and then revenue at the bottom. At the end of kind of doing your analysis, you should have a simpler model than this, probably no complex, that says, I gradually have users that go through varying levels of engagement, they have conversion points, and they have estimated values. Hopefully you have real values if you're actually doing money. But at start, I have acquisition. I have multiple channels which I can bring people to my website. How do I evaluate whether those channels are good or not? Whether they are large volume, lowest cost, or best performing. Lots of different ways I can do that. As a marketer, I start out doing a lot of that, and I test and see what works. Activation. I want to have a happy first experience with my users, whether they come to a widget, a landing page, or my website. I probably do that most by homepage, landing pages, and doing lots of A/B tests. So really important, like what they experience the first part of the page. To get them back, emails, often very overlooked, is a very simple way to get them to come back. Set up account lifecycle emails at 3, 7, and 30-day intervals. Other timed things on weekly or monthly or event-based. RSS and content can also do the same function. Referrals, big point. Don't do viral marketing before you figured out whether your product sucks or not. If the product is less than an 8 on a 10, a scale of satisfaction, viral marketing helps people tell their friends that your product sucks. Don't do that. That's not good. Lastly, you need to figure out how to raise money or make money on your website. I don't know what your product or service is. That's up to you. Okay, so this basic 5-step model is kind of the things that you should focus on in building features and understanding how that engages the user through marketing experiences. Lots of different ways to measure things in your site. I would say primarily quantitative and comparative ones are the ones that I think are the most important. So getting a conversion funnel view of how people engage with your website and then testing different ways that they engage with that. Again, best performing, largest volume, and lowest cost, the ways that you would measure people coming to your website. And then actually segmenting that by different types of campaign themes. So once I get that basic model set up, then I want to slice and dice it based on audience component, audience segment, channel source, campaign theme, and see if any of those are converting better at any of those levels. So the way that I see whether certain marketing campaigns work better is, did I increase the overall conversion based on some types of keywords or components? So an example way that you could set this up is to say, when people come to the website, how many people bounce from the initial page of the website? That's an important metric, understanding what percentage of people came to your website and didn't really experience the thing that they were expecting to get. You can do a lot of variation on that. Second stage is, did they have some sort of happy first visit? And you can determine that in very many different ways. I would say either X pages, Y seconds, or Z clicks is one way to do that. But ideally, getting them to engage with some type of experience, maybe email is kind of one way to get that. Once you get them engaged with at least some happy experience, you want to get them to come back. Again, I would posit that email is a very basic way to do that people overlook a lot. But even if you don't do email, measuring repeat visits, I would suggest 3 visits in the first 30 days, other ways that you could define that. Lastly, again, I don't like to have people emphasize viral marketing until you know that your product is working, but once you do, trying to measure people on your site who refer, and particularly those that refer people who then activate. So not just referrals out, but the actual result of them engaging with your site. Lastly, 2 points to measure in revenue. So what's a minimal revenue point that is generated from some engagement on your site, and also break-even revenue. So that's a really important metric to understand so that you're buying traffic that results in break-even revenue for your site or better. So as a marketer, what channels and who do you market to? I want to design and test for multiple marketing channels. I want to focus on high volume, high conversion, or low cost channels. I want to measure as deep down that conversion funnel as I possibly can, ideally to revenue, and make decisions based on marketing that way. Product, how do I choose what to build? In general, most people build too many features on a subjective basis. Spend 80% of your time on existing feature optimization, do a lot of A/B testing, see if you make an impact in conversion, less time on new feature development. As a founder or CEO, what metrics do you choose to watch? Your main job, hypothesize what that customer lifecycle looks like, get your product people to build to those wireframe conversion points, get your marketers to measure to those conversion points. And that's it.
Thanks, Dave. Now, next up, we're going to hear from Deb Schultz. Deb actually on Tuesday didn't know that she was going to do an Ignite talk on Wednesday, so she gets major props. Come on up, Deb. She gets major props for doing a presentation. But don't cut her as much slack as we did on Wednesday, because she's had 2 days to practice now. So, please welcome Deb.
Hey guys, are we on? Yes. So I'm not here to teach anything necessarily or have a particular point of view, but this is an observation that I've been making a lot when I talk out in the world, mostly to those who don't live in the universe that you and I live in. So bear with me. So we are inherently social animals. We all know that. We live in this great community. We're out and about. One of the reasons that we all blog and go drinking together and live in this world is for that purpose, because that's the thing that drives us. In the way past, life was simple. we socialized with our immediate family. It was geographically based. We had probably, if you were lucky, maybe your aunts or uncles next door. But for the most part, it was your nuclear family that you socialized with. It was simple. In the recent past, tribes started moving away, got a little more complicated, used the phone, used the operator, but we extended our relationships out past the immediate geography that we live in. In the more past, the recent past, the phone, email, God, no more email, we're tired of email, overwhelmed, information overload, I can't possibly have any more connections, enough, please no more. And this is the world that I know that we all live in. There are plenty of people who still live only by email. And I'm here to posit that the information overload is actually a different way to look at it. The world is your oyster today. You have connections across the globe. You have people that you blog with in Nairobi, in China, in Beijing. And instead of looking at it in a hierarchical fashion, look at it as this diverse universe. I'm sure many of you know the Flickrverse. So we have this vast array of communities, of affinity, of place, as we talked about, as well as professional, non-professional, blurring of lines, business and personal. We can do work. I've actually had clients of mine contact me via Flickr photo because they know where I am, that I'm working over in Tel Aviv. So there's a blurring of lines in the way that we live our lives, both socially, business-wise, professional. And so the question people always ask, are these relationships real? How can you possibly have 4,000 friends on Facebook or 3,000 Twitter friends? And I'm here to posit that that's the wrong question. Web pages, as we called them 10 years ago, were never pages. We don't have the semantics or the language yet. So I'm here to say that yes, these relationships are real. I love my online friends. And as I used to say, they track back. But the problem is that we think of them as friends in this deep way, the way that we did in the way past. So there's other ways to think about them. I'd argue that the medium almost is the relationship. It's light, it's diverse. There's a screenshot of my desktop on any given day. It's kind of scary. So you've got Flickr, you've got Twitter, you've got Facebook, you've got Blog TV, you've got IM, you have all of this. How can you possibly have real relationships with any of these people? What kind of relationships are you having? We're having different types of relationships. We're back to the relationship is the transaction. This is a great quote by Jerry Mikulski, who talks a lot about the relationship economy. So I would argue that the relationship is the most important thing, but we need to think about it in a different way, not in the way we did with a nuclear family. Relationships are hard, and they're messy, and they're subtle, but they're also really a lot of fun, and they come to their aid when you least expect them in weird and wonderful ways. And we all know this because we use Twitter. You ask questions out on Twitter, you get them back. So I like to think of it as relationship bricolage, bringing back a quote that Chris Locke, Rage Boy, brought into the economy about 10 years ago. You never know which one of your relationships are going to come to your aid when and how. So instead of thinking of the gathering of this as just as a personal thing, you never know. You can be here in Seattle, you can be stuck, you can Twitter someone. So instead of thinking of how many people I'm gathering so I can get to the top of the pile, I'd like to think about how broad these connections are. Because the way that we need to work and operate in a flattening universe is weaving. So I think of it as network weaving. Relationships are network weaving. So we weave through things. We have to be fast. We can't be driven like silos and hard bricks and mortar. And when you weave, really cool shit happens. You never know who's going to come to your aid when, what business relationship is going to turn to a professional relationship. Having drinks with someone will lead to doing business in Beijing or China or wherever. And it's all built on a trust relationship, whether it happens online or offline or where it happens. And this is my gratuitous pretty slide. This is a great site called Virtual Capacity, and they take a lot of great network mapping and topographical mapping of data, and they do great graphical stuff with it, all based on things. So another thing to think about is, what are the skills of the weaver? The skills of the weaver are a listener, a connector, a critic, definitely partial geek, detective, catalyst, diplomat, juggler, approachable, intuitive, but most importantly, you're driven by relationships. If you're driven by the sale, if you're driven by the transaction first, it doesn't work. And so get out there and relate. It's in your nature. Technology changes, but we as humans don't. Thanks.
Thanks, Deb. That was awesome. Next up is Gnomedexer Beth Goza. She's going to be talking about iPhone mind control. Please welcome Beth.
Yay. So I'm like the kid who puts on the concert shirt before the band's even done playing. So is 2008 the year this third screen takes the center stage? My answer is an unequivocal yes. If your head is in the space of Web 2.0, making stuff for the internets or television, I'm going to ask you to make a paradigm shift. And there will be lots of corporate buzzwords during this presentation, so I've brought flashcards along to help you understand them. So what do I mean when I talk about the third screen? Basically what I'm talking about is the evolution of how we've been communicating with information. We've gone from that first passive screen, the television, a very impersonal relationship, to the more personal computer, relating back and forth between our computer screen, to finally the third screen, which is your mobile phone, something you probably carry with you all the time, very much a hyper-personal relationship. Now, when thinking about the mobile phone and working on mobile phones, developing for mobile phones, you kind of have to think literally outside the box. Moving from software that used to be sold on shelves in boxes, again, that were sort of written for a one-size-fits-all audience, to software that was written for specifically being delivered via the web, software as a service, where you can sort of cherry pick what you want. Finally, to hyper-personal software in the form of these small applets, which many of us call widgets or gadgets. Now, the things about cell phones that are interesting is I literally gave this presentation, I think, 6 years ago at Gnomedex when I talked about mobile phones and the convergence of the technology. So cell phones seem to be either 5 years behind or 5 years ahead of technology, depending on how you look at it. In the case of the internet, they've moved from WAP, which was a very sort of 2D text-based browsing experience, to the Pocket browsers in the form of like Opera Mobile, Pocket Internet Explorer, finally to seeing full-fledged Safari on a phone. So once we think we've got it all figured out, we've figured out how mobile works and how to work with mobile, something comes along that sort of changes everything. The coffee spitter. Bam! It's the iPhone. You can't see a mobile presentation these days without seeing the required iPhone slide, because it's really changed the expectations for how people think about mobile and what they want to see in their phones. Even if they don't have one, they've seen the commercials. And then there's the company that I refer to as the alpha pup, the company that always seems to know what's next and is trying to push the edge of what mobile can do. They're trying to figure out ways to deliver content, to monetize, and in this case, our alpha pup, the one we're all looking to, is Google. Google figured out a way to bring search elegantly to phones. They're working on bringing their software as service applications like Google Maps or your iGoogle homepage. And finally, they're now trying to tackle Google AdSense and how to bring that to a phone so people can truly monetize the mobile phone experience. Suddenly, when I was putting together this presentation, I realized I'm back in the late 1990s. The model that we're looking at is very similar to the one we were looking at when the internet became the next big thing. And suddenly you hear all the same words you heard over and over and over again. You hear CPMs, eyeballs, the sticky, page view, walled garden. And it's really distressing to think that we're sort of thinking about mobile in the same way that we thought of the internet. So I'm hoping that you realize that there's some low-hanging fruit out there that's a little more interesting than your average porting your web application to a mobile phone. Now, in this case, there's a lot of companies that are realizing that mobile is going to be the next big thing. So they're looking at things like distributing mobile entertainment content. They're looking at how you can do commerce via phones, how you can use phones as a payment system, how you can use phones as an easy way to aggregate content and deliver it. The point is you have a combination of sort of the old guard porting to mobile phones and then the new guard trying to actually build from the ground up. If you're going to play in this space, you need to know who the players are, and unfortunately, you cannot get around them, no matter how hard you try. So in the mobile phone space, we have the carriers, the handset manufacturers, the big brands, and the companies they work with, their agencies. And all of these companies are sort of merging together in what I like to refer to as a Katamari-esque type fashion, sort of rolling over everything and taking over, which leads me to the pain points. Even though I'm here to say that mobile is going to be the next big thing, I truly believe that, it doesn't mean it's not without its drawbacks. In this case, the drawbacks come into the form of everything being what I like to refer to as locked down. The carriers like to lock Their networks. The handset manufacturers like to lock what apps get serviced or delivered. I mean, at the end of the day, it seems like getting stuff on phones is really freaking hard. And so what I'm hoping to do is for all of you, you're smart enough to work around this. We're on the same page here, I hope, which is let's open up the walled gardens. Let's give mobile users a chance to pick and choose what they want on their phones and how they want to use it. And so take from what I delivered today and put all your energy into doing something good with your phone. Thanks.
Thanks, Beth. Now, next up is Leo Dirac. Leo's going to talk about how fair or unfair VCs are.
Thanks, Brady. So how many VCs do we have in the crowd? One. All right, great. Not too many. So I'm going to talk to you about how you can make millions of dollars and keep none of it for yourself. I'll start out by explaining a little bit about how venture capital works and what kinds of companies it's appropriate for and what kinds it's not. Then we'll talk about term sheets, and I'll explain a few things you really need to pay attention to if you're getting into this. And I hope at the end you understand that there's kind of a rhyme and a reason for all the wackiness that goes on here. So the first thing to know when dealing with VCs is that they're not investing their own money. They start by pooling together a fund from a bunch of investors, and then they distribute it out to a bunch of startups. But the individual investors are expecting their money back at some point, like generally, 10 years after committing it to the fund. So VC is great for companies that need many millions of dollars to chase after a really big opportunity for a quick return. But they've got to see an exit. Mostly it's like 3 to 5 years to reach some kind of IPO or an acquisition for a venture-backed company. VC is not appropriate for slow growth businesses or lifestyle companies. In fact, VCs have a term for this kind of company that's kind of running along but not approaching an exit. They're called the living dead. That's what they call them. So let's talk about term sheets. This is a short document that has all the really important information before the real legal contract is written up. It's just a lot easier to bounce this back and forth than, say, 100 pages of legalese. It says how much money is being invested and who's involved and how all the money gets distributed at the end. And another really important thing it has is called the pre-money valuation. So this says how much the company's ideas are worth and any assets they might have before the investors put in actual cash. Now, don't get too hung up on it because it's kind of arbitrary. I might say that my company's ideas are worth $6 million. And then the VCs put in $2 million of actual money, and then they take 25% ownership of the company. So in this example, you might think that when the company gets acquired later on for, say, $100 million, I'm going to keep 75% of that, and the VCs are going to take their $25 million and be happy with it. And now it doesn't really work out that way, usually because of something called liquidation preference. This is the idea that when there's a liquidation event, the VCs get preference. So this is a kind of insurance policy for them. In case the company doesn't sell for as much money as they were hoping, they want to make sure that they get all their money back first. And then if there's anything left over, it can be distributed amongst everybody. So if you look at it graphically, up to a certain exit value, the VCs keep everything. And beyond that, the slope of the payout lines is determined by fractional ownership. So the slope is determined by pre-money valuation, but the intercepts are really important on these lines too. Another way to look at it is as a fraction. And if the final exit value is extremely high, if the company is very successful, I'm going to get close to my 75%. But at low to moderate exit values, the VCs take a disproportionate share. So the amount of the pre-money valuation is set in the term sheet. Sometimes the VCs just want their money back, but sometimes they want twice that. And sometimes they're going to ask for 3 times liquidation preference. This is a really important number to pay attention to if you're looking at a term sheet. So some people hear about this situation and they think, WTF, mate, this is completely bogus. Those VCs, they're just trying to take advantage of us. We're the entrepreneurs with the ideas. We're the ones who actually get things done. Why do they need all these complex contracts and stuff? Can't they just take common stock like the rest of us? Well, imagine if they did take common stock. They'd have 25% voting share and could be outvoted on just about anything. So that could lead to all sorts of mischief on the part of the management. I'll give you an example. As soon as that $2 million check hits my company's bank account, as a CEO, I might decide the best way for the company to use that money would be to give it back to the shareholders as a dividend, yeah. And if they had common stock, the VCs would be powerless to stop me. It'd be perfectly legal. So they need some kind of control. After all, they're not trying to cheat us. VCs just need to protect their investments. And remember, without VC and investors, your idea isn't a company. It's just an idea. And if you look into it, just about everything in the term sheet has a good reason behind it. Consider cumulative dividends. This is the idea that over time, the amount of money that the VCs are guaranteed to get back increases. And this is great because it exactly aligns the incentives of the management with the investors towards a quick exit. And aligning incentives is exactly what you want for a good relationship. So if you're staring down a VC term sheet, be sure and get good advice. Hire a really good lawyer and make sure you see what's called the waterfall chart, which says how the payouts are going to work. And try and understand their motivation too. If you make this adversarial and us versus them, nobody's going to win. So I'd like to thank my finance professor at UW, Lance Young, who taught me most of the stuff. And if you check my blog, Embracing Chaos, I'm going to put up some spreadsheets to help you guys play with this kind of thing if you're ever in it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Leo. Next up, we're going to learn how Brian Dorsey is going to try and change the world through lunch.
Hello, everybody. My name is Brian Dorsey, and I'm a software developer and database guy, and I want to change the world without quitting my day job. So I think lots of people in here have tried to change the world, and some of them have, and my little premise is I think we can do it a bit smaller. So here's a problem that I'm interested in. This is the presidential election top 100 political books from 2004 presidential election. The graph is based on Amazon people who bought this also bought this. We're not even talking to each other. It's not that we don't understand each other, we're not even talking. And I think that's a problem. So we've also got all these incredibly useful social networks and gatherings that allow us to all get together and share common interests. And these are really incredible, useful tool, but we end up meeting people that think a lot like we do, or our social networks are introducing us to our friends already. So I want to try to approach that a little differently. So my idea is, what if I could just have lunch with somebody new every day? Give me a variety of people and come up with different impressions. Maybe we could solve problems based on stuff they knew that I knew and come up with kinds of synergies. So we'll start with lunch. That's kind of small enough, simple enough, and we'll see where that goes. Lunch is just an incredible thing. So you've got to have lunch every day. You might as well kind of take advantage of that time. And the beautiful thing about lunch, if you eat the right food, is that if it goes really great, you have a good conversation, and if it goes badly, it's like, oh, look, it's time to go back to my meeting. Bye. So lunch is a safe place to meet new people. So here's the obligatory spam. This is the idea that I came up with for, for meeting new people for lunch. And so basically you come to this site and you say, I would like to meet in this part of town on this date. Here's my email address. And then that morning you'll get an email saying, here's the names of 2 people you're going to have lunch with. You guys figure out where to go and have a good conversation. That's kind of the whole deal. And hopefully you will meet interesting people and have good conversations out of that. So what this idea is not, is it's not a dating site. Look at this book. It's awesome. So if, thump, bing, okay, thank you. So this idea is pretty small. It's basically one web page with a little bit of information around it, a tiny little database, and hopefully at least 3 users. So you can have lunch. And so trying to go with this idea of making small ideas quickly, see where things go. So themes we've been hearing today from other people. So as of today, the site's been online for about a month and a half. It's been Seattle only, but in honor of getting on stage in front of Gnomedex, now it's North America everywhere. So I'd like you guys to try to break the site. I think you'll succeed, as you find out later in the presentation. So here's the amazing thing. We live in this time, so that actually says embarrassment of riches, and where the resources that we have available to us are just incredible. Even compared to last year, year before, it's unbelievable. The technical and social resources that are just easily available to all of us for the asking. Lots of you people know that. Tell everyone else that you talk to on your blogs. So as far as tech stuff goes, lots of free software, just amazing people working for me for free, basically, running on a $15 a month shared hosting. That's where the breakage comes in. And my biggest expense so far is this t-shirt. So There is time, though. Time takes some effort. So I spent about 50 hours of development time on the initial version of this site. I happen to be a developer, so that's kind of cool, but if you're not a developer, maybe you give up the iPhone or the new laptop and make your idea happen. I think it's possible. Here's another amazing thing. Maps. Imagine if I tried to make a site for introducing people to lunch by saying, okay, go to this site and enter your latitude and longitude and how many kilometers you're willing to go, and then press enter. Not going to happen. I can't build this kind of infrastructure on my own, but that's the information I get out of it automatically. There's lots of talk about dynamic languages. The particular one I'm way into is Python. I use this web framework called Django. It made everything super easy. But the key here is that there's all these frameworks, Ruby on Rails, Python stuff, Erlang stuff, just doesn't matter what it is. The tools are out there and it makes it super easy. Now here's the real key, people. All of you guys know a bunch of people. These are some people I know. You talk to those people. We all know about relationships here, but like propagate this message out. The conversations that happen between people are what make the ideas come alive. I said 50 hours development. I spent 50, way more than that, in talking to the other people, helping refine the ideas, got tons of feedback. Hopefully I'll get feedback from people here today. And that's what really makes all of our ideas come alive, is the other people that we communicate with and have real relationships with over time. So I hope all of us do that. So core of it, be crazy, small, make broken stuff, release it. It's crappy, right? And just make your ideas out there. And for you guys who are bloggers, send that message to everybody you talk to. We can make really amazing small stuff. So I'd like to thank you all very much, and please give it a try, and instead of vote for me, please blog for me. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Brian. And now we've got our last talk, where we learn how to keep your life not boring through mundane objects. Please welcome Milan.
Hey, guys. So a recent study showed that the average person spends more than 70% of their day bored. Actually, I have no idea. I found this picture online and just made up a stat to go with it. But I am on something of a crusade against boredom. I believe that we should be able to take the most mundane objects in our life and extract entertainment from them. Everything around us can be entertaining. Everything around us can provide fun. You just have to know how to look at it, where to find it, and how to extract that entertainment from them. I've been lucky enough to work on a lot of professional jobs specifically tailored to provide entertainment in everything around us. And really just a crusade against boredom. Really try to just remove that from our lives entirely. Now let's take an example. A bucket. We should all be carrying around buckets in our cars all the time. A bucket is your key to everything. Let's say there's a business, a movie set, a construction site, something you want to gain access to that you can't. A bucket is going to get you in. Here's how it works. You take your bucket and you walk inside. I'm not going to mess with him. He's got a bucket. He must be really important. It's unbelievable how effective it is. Now, on the few times that someone does stop you, here's what you do. You say, I can't talk right now. Steve really needs this bucket. It's amazing. I've also heard from friends that the name Bill and Larry are very effective, but I always use Steve. Again, just really interesting examples of mundane objects providing entertainment. Here's another one. Some friends of mine play this game all the time. It's called Toast. To play Toast, all you need is a car, some friends, and some toast. What you do is you all dress in black. You go out at about 2 a.m. 2 a.m. is really ideal because there's very few people out on the street. You drive up in your car. We use a pickup truck. We all lie down flat in the back of it. Find a person walking. Car screeches to a halt right in front of them. Everyone jumps up out of the back of the truck, points at the person, and screams, "Toast! Toast!" And then you throw the toast at them. Now, the person is going to dive behind a mailbox, a car, a bush, whatever it is, because the last thing they'd expect from a bunch of black-clad hooligans at the middle of the night is to be literal and throw baked bread at them as they're walking. It's incredible entertainment. The looks on their faces are just priceless. Here's another example of ways to find entertainment. All you need is your street and a sandbag. Make your own, buy a few, doesn't matter. You take the sandbags, you put them in the storm drains of your street, wait for it to rain. You can do this in any city. And then you get to participate in a brand new sport. It's called floodboarding. Really easy. You take a boogie board, tie yourself to the back of your car. Floodboarding, again, really mundane objects all around us, tailored to provide entertainment. You just got to know how to look for it. Yes, this is me. Yes, I have the scars to prove it. It's really, really fun. I highly recommend it to anyone who wants to try something new. But again, don't be bored. There's so much stuff out there. Now, these have been really simple examples from just personal hobbies of mine. Let's talk about some more professional examples. This is a clothing company I started with some friends of mine. It's called eDoc. And the basic idea is we make really cool looking clothes, but every single garment has a secret code embedded in it. In the fabric, in the stitching, in the graphics, invisible inks, infrared inks, glow-in-the-dark stuff. You find the code hidden on the shirt, you take it to the website, you enter it in. And a movie starts playing. There's one movie per shirt. You watch them, you learn the story about a woman on the run from the law for a crime she didn't commit. Anyway, before you know it, you're knee-deep in a murder mystery told exclusively through clothing. That's the idea, mundane objects providing entertainment. Here's another example. I worked on a project called I Love Bees. Now, I Love Bees is tailored to provide entertainment through payphones. We should all be answering payphones all the time. Payphones are your just invitation into another world. Who knows who's calling? Maybe they wanted to reach you. For I Love Bees, what we did was we took a 6-hour radio drama, cut it up into little bitty pieces, and instead of broadcasting it over the radio, we broadcast it over payphones. Hundreds of thousands of ringing payphones all around the world. All you had to do to play was pick up a phone, and suddenly you're a part of this adventure. And this is really the point, is like everything around us can provide entertainment. Everything around us can provide fun if you know how to look for it, how to extract that entertainment from the object. Here's my last example. You're bored. You're at home, you're at work, you're in your car. It's boring. 3 words are going to save you. Customer service lines. These are systems tailor-made to entertain you. They have to answer your questions, so come up with a question. Is there a God? This top number is the number for Butterball Turkey. This bottom one is the number for the Kremlin in Russia. Call them up, ask them your questions. Unbelievable entertainment. The point here is that entertainment really is all around you. Never be bored. Never be bored. You never have to. There's always something fun to do if you know where to look, how to extract it. Thanks. I'm Milan.
Thanks, Chris. And I'd also like to recognize Jesse Robbins. Jesse Robbins in the front row. And you can see videos from past Ignite at igniteseattle.com, and that work's all done by Brian Zug. So let's give these guys one last thank you, and then... Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.